Whether you were inspired by Toji to finally build your dream physique, or you saw some cool calisthenics moves and thought, damn, I want to do that. Starting out can be quite intimidating. And that's why I built a fundamental calisthenics progression tree to help you with the first steps on your journey. The tree is a step-by-step guide to take you from day one to mastering the basics. Because no matter the end goal, you have to build the foundations before you can reach the advanced stuff. Additionally, I will give you an example training plan at the end of this video, and I will also explain how you can adjust it to your specific goals. I've also included timestamps here on the screen and in the description, so you can easily find the sections you are most interested in. Let's dive in. Before you start with any training, you have to do a warm-up. A warm-up is essential for all levels, and it's non-negotiable for your long-term success in calisthenics. Because warming up before your session prevents injuries, and quite obviously that's a good thing, so take at least 10 minutes out of your training for warming up. For an upper body training session, you should warm up your shoulders, wrists and elbows. And I will show you some examples. For example, for the shoulders, you can do circles or dislocates. For the elbows, you can do elbow rotations. And for the wrists, you can do wrist rotations, finger raises, palm raises, and some wrist stretches. You can also do some easier variations of the exercises that you're going to train in that specific session. If you train push-ups, you could, for example, do knee push-ups as a warm-up. And same thing for our lower body, we need to warm up our knees, hips and ankles. And for that we can do, for example, knee rotations, hip circles, feet rotations. We can do some stretches to increase our range of motion. And similar to the upper body, we can do some simpler progressions, like squats, for example, as part of our warm-up. After the warm-up, we are ready to start with some exercises. And for a fundamental progression tree, I divided the exercises into 3 categories: push, pull and legs. And additionally, I have a support branch for our core strength. So let's start with the push exercises. These are really important to develop a good upper body physique and functional strength, as we will work on chest, shoulders and triceps with these. And the first exercise that we have to master, it's a classic, you have heard it probably 1,000 times, is the push-up. And this should be your first milestone of your calisthenics training. And for the form, your body should basically stay in a line, so don't stick your hips out. You should also not flare your elbows out to the side, you should rather keep them close to your body. And during the movement, at the top you should protract your shoulders, meaning that you should push your shoulders down, and when you go down you will naturally transition from a protracted shoulder position to a neutral shoulder position. And depending on your starting point, a push-up can be quite hard in the beginning, but we have good progressions that you can already do today to practice the push-up. And these are called incline push-ups. Incline push-ups are just push-ups where you put your hands on a higher surface. For example, you can begin with wall push-ups, and once you master these, you can do chair push-ups until you are finally down to the normal push-up on the ground. And you can also make the push-up more difficult by doing clapping push-ups, elevated push-ups or archer push-ups. Another fundamental push exercise that we can do is the dip. And while dips work similar muscles as the push-up, they emphasize the triceps and lower chest more, so they are a good complement to the push-up. And in regards to good form, you need to have depression. Not this kind of depression, I mean depression in your shoulders, meaning they should be pushed away from your ears to stabilize your shoulder position. In addition, your chest should be tilted slightly forward, and similar as with push-ups, don't flare out your elbows. If you don't have a bar to do them, you can also do them on chairs. Just make sure that the chairs are stable enough so that there's no accident that would happen. Alright? And we have also some progressions that we can do to work up towards the dip. We start out by doing bend knee chair dips. To make it more difficult, we can straighten our leg. Then we can take 2 chairs and make a 1 leg assisted dip. Then we work us up towards a negative dip. This just means that you only do the face going down, and then you can do stand up and do it again. And if you have resistance bands, then you can do a band assisted dip. Resistance bands in general are quite good for calisthenics because you can make a lot of exercises easier and work up towards them, so it's a good investment. But of course you can also learn the dips without resistance bands. And finally, after mastering the negative dips and or the resistance band dip, we can go on to the unassisted dip. Let's talk about the last fundamental push exercise, and that is the pike push-up. This one puts more emphasis on your shoulders, and it's great for building the strength for skills like handstands or even more advanced variations like handstand push-ups. And for the form, you should pike your hips, your arms should be locked out at the top, your shoulders should be elevated, meaning they should be pushed towards your ears. While lowering yourself, you should place the head in front of your arms and reach a neutral shoulder position. And as always with every push exercise, you should not flare out your elbows. And here are the progressions that we can do to learn the pike push-ups, but in general, I would recommend first mastering the normal push-up before you go on to pike push-ups. And for our progressions, we can do hand-elevated pike push-ups, just putting the hands on a higher surface, similar to the incline push-ups. We can also put our legs wider apart if our flexibility is a limiting factor for our pike push-ups. And similar with the incline push-ups, we can just decrease the height of the elevation for the hands and work us down towards the real pike push-up. And it's also a good idea to throw in some hamstring stretches from time to time if flexibility is a limiting factor for you. And these are the main exercises that we need for push training. Let's move on to the pull exercises. These are the foundation for a strong back and also really important for the physique, as a wider back will allow us to achieve that V-shaped upper body that looks so good on anime characters like, for example, Toji. Pull exercises also work the biceps, making them a perfect complement to our push-focused movements. Doing pull training at home is a bit more difficult, but we can start out with some exercises that don't require any equipment, and we can also get creative for a good home setup to kind of emulate the equipment. But with that said, to unlock the full potential of calisthenics pull training, we have to have access to some kind of bar at some point in our training. Okay, but let's start with the first exercise, and here we're going to do back extensions. These are really good for starting out, as you need zero equipment for them. You just need to have a floor. I guess most of us have a floor somehow. And as for the form, just lay down, keep your hand behind your head and slowly lift up your upper body using your lower and mid back muscles while keeping the feet on the floor. And as for progressions, there's not really any pre-exercise that you can do, but you can make it harder over time by lifting higher or slowing down the movement. This is a good starter, but it will not build you a crazy physique. For that, you will have to upgrade to the next exercise, which is bodyweight rows, because these target your lats, mid and upper back, and also the biceps. But to actually do these variations, you have to find some kind of bar. I have a static bar at home, so that's easy for me, but we can also get creative. For example, you can use chairs and a broomstick as equipment, but similar with the dips, please make sure that the chairs are stable enough and also that the stick is strong enough and that it doesn't break when you hang onto it, because we don't want any accidents to happen. And for the form, focus on retracted shoulders in the top position and protracted shoulders at the bottom position. And the negative phase of the movement should be controlled, so you shouldn't just fall into a passive hang. And you can change the hand placement as you want. A supinated grip, where your back of your hand faces forwards, increases the biceps engagement, while a pronated grip, where we turn the hand around, shifts the focus to more back engagement. And for the progressions, a higher bar generally makes the exercise easier because it reduces the weight that you have to pull, and conversely, a lower bar increases the difficulty as you become more horizontal. You could also put your legs up to be completely horizontal, and by that increasing the difficulty, and this would be our final row form. Now we can talk about the best fundamental calisthenics pull exercise. You probably know what's coming, the pull-up. The pull-up primarily builds our back muscles, especially the lats or biceps, while also engaging the shoulders and core for stability. It's the foundation for other iconic calisthenic skills, like for example the muscle-up. And to do the pull-up, you need some kind of bar to hold onto. We can't really emulate it without equipment. You could buy a door pull-up bar to do them home, or find some trees or playground bars outside where you can hang on to. For now, I will just put my static bar onto some chairs, which is good enough. Let's talk about a good form for the pull-up. And for the basic pull-up, you should put your hands basically shoulder width apart on the bar, and then you should aim for pulling your chest to the bar and retracting your shoulder blades at the top. Similar to the rows, you should control the negative part of the pull-up, so not just falling into a dead hang. It doesn't have to be slow, but it needs to be controlled. And you can also change the grip. You can do them with a supinated grip, then they're called chin-ups. These are a bit easier as they use more of the biceps to pull you up. But for optimal back results, we also want to learn the pronated grip version. Okay, let's talk about progressions now, because The pull-up is notoriously hard for beginners to learn, so we need some progressions to make the process a bit easier. And the first step that we have to learn is how to hang onto a bar, which is called the dead hang. Once we are comfortable here, we can do an active hang, which is the same with the difference that you're now engaging your scapula, so you're pulling yourself a tiny bit up. After this, we can start with leg-assisted pull-ups, where you basically do the pull movement, but with your legs on the ground, which takes some of the weight off. Then we can go on to negative pull-ups. Similar as with dips, you just go to your top position and lower yourself down slowly. And then again, if you have resistance bands, you can also do a band-assisted pull-up, which is the full movement with the help of the band. Really good progression, highly recommended. And after doing all of this, you're ready for your first pull-up. Okay, now we covered two of the main categories. So let's talk about the support branch, which is the core strength. And the good thing is, as most calisthenics exercises are compound exercises, meaning a lot of muscle groups are involved, we're already engaging our core while doing these exercises. So we don't need to spend too much additional time on our core training, but we can throw in some exercises at the end of our sessions for some extra core stability. And here are some exercises that you can do from easy to hard. We can start out with sit-ups and hollow body holds, then go on to lying knee raises, to hanging or dip knee raises. And from here we can go on to leg raises by straightening our legs. Now we mainly talked about upper body training in calisthenics, so let's take a look at what we can do for lower body. And I know what you are thinking, but it's not skipping leg days. We have to train legs for a good physique and for a healthy body. So here's what we actually can do. As we spend most of our time already on our legs during our day, most of us are strong enough for some basic squat variations. And this is also a good starting point. So we can do normal bodyweight squats, and these are good for the quadriceps, but we can also make it more difficult by doing variations like, for example, the Cossack squats, which puts more emphasis on one leg and also on the inner thighs, or making it even more difficult doing the pistol squat. And if your pistol squat is limited by your range of motion, you can do them on an elevated surface, making it a bit easier. Then of course you have also other muscle groups, and here we can do, for example, calf raises, obviously for our calves, with 2 legs for the easy version and with 1 leg for the harder one. We can do sliding hamstring curls for our hamstrings. Here we can change the difficulty with the range of motion that we are using for the exercise. And lastly, we can also include some hip thrusts, and these are good for the glutes but also for the hamstrings, and we can also do them with 2 legs for the easy mode and with 1 leg for the harder mode. Now we covered all the basic exercises and progressions, and we can summarize them in this fundamental skill tree. You can use this tree as a guide for your training so that you know what to do next once you mastered one progression. So let's talk about how we can actually plan our training so that we can make fast progress and master the different levels in the skill tree to basically go from beginner to intermediate. And here I want to talk about the most important principles for making fast progress. And the first one is consistency. You have to train on a regular basis and make it part of your lifestyle if you actually want to progress. It sounds obvious, but if you train for 1 week and skip the next week, you won't get far, no matter how intense your sessions are. While it's fine to occasionally miss a workout due to external circumstances like sickness or maybe exam stress, you should generally stick to a consistent weekly training plan if you want to see results. The second principle is progressive overload. Your workouts must get more challenging over time as your body adapts, because you will get stronger and then the same exercises that you are used to do are too easy for you. To continue building strength and muscle, you must increase the difficulty of your training in upcoming sessions. Then the last principle, this is often neglected, is rest and recovery, because you must allow for adequate rest between sessions so your body can repair and build muscle. Without it, you risk overtraining, which leads to stagnation, decreased performance, or even injury. Remember, you don't get stronger during your training, but actually while recovering. For more information on that, check out my video on sleep. Basically, if you adhere to these 3 principles, it's guaranteed that you will make progress. For best results, I would recommend to train between 3 and 6 times a week. There are different approaches to organizing your training. For example, you could split sessions into upper and lower body training or training full body sessions every time. But as we just talked about, rest and recovery is really important. So if you increase your training frequency, you should decrease training volume. For example, if you train full body workouts every day, these should be less intense than compared to a training plan where you train full body only 3 days a week. Makes sense. Personally, my training philosophy is simplicity over complexity. So what I like to do for my push and pull training is to pick one horizontal and one vertical exercise. For push, this could be a push-up progression for the horizontal part and a dip progression for the vertical part. And for pull, this could be the pull-up for the vertical part and the row for the horizontal part. And here you can choose what best aligns with your goals. For example, if you want to focus more on handstands later in your journey, pipe push-ups are likely more useful than dips for you. But if you're more interested in building a bigger amount of muscles, dips might be a good choice, because later on it is easy to make them more difficult by adding weight, which is kind of a possibility for infinite progressive overload. And as for the pull exercises, the choice is pretty much limited by your equipment, because in my opinion it's always good to include a pull-up progression into your training, because it's really one of the best back exercises, followed by the bodyweight row as second exercise. But if you don't have any bar to hold onto, then back extension are also of course a really good start. Since our leg muscles include bigger muscle groups, we can choose more than 2 exercises to train them on a separate day. And here, for example, we could choose Cossack squats, hamstring curls, calf raises, and hip thrusts. Now here's an example training plan that is well suited for beginners. And with this, I just want to give you an example how you can structure your training. You don't have to follow this exact plan, you can also come up with your own, but it's definitely a good start. And here we will train 3 times a week. On 2 days we have push and pull training, and on 1 day we have leg training. And at the end of each session we can throw in a bit of core training as well. Then you have to choose the exercises from the progression tree. I would say choose exercises that you can do for at least 7 reps, or if it's a hold, that you can hold at least for 15 seconds. And for this example, let's say we are able to do every exercise for 7 repetitions in 3 sets. And then on our first push and pull days, we try to do these 3 sets of 7 repetitions. And then also the same with our first leg day. And now we have to keep the principle of progressive overload in mind. And here's a method how you can do that. If we complete a day where we can do all of the repetitions for a specific exercise, then on the next training day we want to make it harder. And here we will increase the number of sets per muscle group to 4. And if we succeed again, to 5. And if we can complete all 5 sets, in this example with 7 repetitions, then we drop the number of sets back to 3 in the next training session, but then we increase the amount of reps per set by 1, meaning we will do 3 times 8 in this example. Also, it's important to note that you should only progress with the exercise that you managed to achieve all the repetitions with. For example, you managed to do 3 times 7 rows, but you couldn't complete the last set of your band assisted pull-ups. Then in your next training session, you will do 4 sets of 7 rows, but still only 3 sets of pull-ups. You will first progress with the pull-ups once you complete each set fully. And with this method, progressive overload is basically ensured for your training. At one point, increasing the repetitions and sets by this method is not going to be enough. Then we need to pick an exercise progression that is more difficult. So for example, if you can do 5 times 12 incline push-ups, then in the next session try to go for 3 times 7 normal push-ups, meaning that you mastered the easy progression, the incline push-ups, and that you are now ready to go on to the next progression, the normal push-up. Here I would choose the starting reps based on how many repetitions you can actually do for 3 sets. So for example, start with 3 times 7 push-ups, or maybe just start with 3 times 5 push-ups. Both is okay. And by following this approach, we are making our training harder every time we succeed. And with that, we ensure that we'll see long-term progress. One thing that I should also mention for the exercise where you just hold a position for a certain amount of seconds, here you can make them more difficult by adding, for example, 5 seconds the next time. And here you see an example training plan in the time span of 2 weeks, and you can also see how the reps would evolve for this specific person. But again, you should adapt it based on your own training performance. And once you can hit 10 reps for every exercise in the progression tree or hold a position for 30 to 60 seconds, you officially mastered the foundations. And then you're ready to set sail into intermediate waters. From here, the journey is yours to choose. You could focus on static skills like handstand and front levers, dive into dynamics like 360 and 540 swings, or prioritize muscle growth with weighted calisthenics. There are nearly infinite directions you can take, and from my experience, every single step is worth it. So, good luck on your personal calisthenics journey. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.